Okay. So this is when they pretend to like each other. I'm joking. Aircraft OEMs always like each other because they know there's a good chance they'll end up working there. So you can't offend anyone in this industry. Okay, we've heard a lot over the last 2 days about how tough the market is and how the issues facing people. But your job is pretty easy, isn't it? Claudio?
Are you signing the check right now, Alasdair, for your airplane? No, it's a tough market. It's difficult. We heard a lot about this in the past 2 days, today and yesterday. But there are still opportunities out there. Some regions, as we heard here, are better than the others. But business aviation still has a purpose. People use it. People see a benefit for it. So there are opportunities out there for sure.
Rocky, how's life?
The life is always good. I think although yesterday and today they have some discussion about how difficult it is and what kind of obstacles there are, but I still believe that the market is still the huge market in China, and the demand is still there. Although maybe due to some other factors, maybe the demand is not get to the reality as fast as they thought, but still is there. So this is why I think all the OEMs still believe in this market.
Nilesh, you're always cheery.
No, I think the market in East Asia Pacific is very good. I know Jeff's focused a bit on China, but my market is outside of that, and it's been very rosy this year. And the market has been very steady. Obviously, there's some years certain markets do better, certain years others. Because of it, this year India has been very hot. Australia is doing good. So I think I'm very optimistic on the market, and I think there's a lot of big potential of growth, especially in Japan, Vietnam, Philippines.
You will work for companies based outside the region, and America is a hot market at the moment. Are you finding that you're getting less support or management time, or is that a good thing?
I think I spent 25 years in the company, so I know how to get the management time. Being spent 15 years in this region, I think I love the thrill of selling in Asia. I've seen it grow. I think there's tremendous potential, like I said, and I prefer working this market.
But do you look at your colleagues in North America and just think, your job is so much easier?
Of course. I'm not going to, selling a concept buyer somewhere in India or Vietnam or Philippines or even Indonesia, it's not easy, and a lot of them, some countries like India and China have Forex regulations, challenges of lack of operators or providers. So all of those issues we have to deal with in this part of the world, which in a mature market like US, you don't have to. So obviously there's a challenge, but I think in that challenge there is a thrill.
Rocky, Textron, you have the King Air aircraft, the Beechcraft, you've got the Cessna aircraft, synonymous with American, Wichita-based American small and medium companies buy them by the bucket load. Do you find it hard explaining to your management team back in Wichita how different China is?
Yeah, I think since we have a huge sales team here, even based in Singapore and also in China, we have a bigger sales team. I think all the team really understand the difference between China and the Asia Pacific and also the US market. This is really different, and it's different sales style and different marketing style. I think this is if we have already worked in this industry for so many years, I think even Wichita side, they understand how the Asia market is looking at. and also how to proceed the sales here and the marketing here. I did not have any difficulties to explain all those things.
Claudio?
Yep. Well, first, it is a different market, and customers, they have different behaviors and different challenges to be faced during the sales process. So it is part of my job, right, to work with our headquarters and explain them the differences and so on, and urge for more patience. Deals here certainly take much longer to close than a deal in the U.S. But I mean, they are quite open to understand that. They are very experienced on that as well, so they understand the differences. So I'm definitely happy with all the support that I get.
So we've heard a lot about the problems that operators face, slots, getting on board their aircraft. How happy are the majority of your customers at the moment? Renewal rates are pretty good in Asia.
I think majority, I think probably all of our customers renew or upgrade or move up the value chain from a Challenger to a Global 7500. So renewal rates are high. And given the challenges in infrastructure and the connectivity in the region, business aircraft is really a true business tool for us, and for the connecting their operations, their supply chains, their customers, to wake up in the morning, have a breakfast meeting in Singapore, lunch meeting in London, and dinner in New York. You can only do it on Global 7500, right?
Other aircraft are available. Rocky, would you agree? Would you say your customers are pretty happy despite all the problems?
Well, you see, since different operators have different operations, and we would call systems, and they have their own channels to how to operate there. Although for example, in China, still I know the slot thing is still the tough one airspace. But everything is changing better and compared with before. I mean, especially like recently, at the end of last year, when we had a meeting with CAC and also with the air traffic control side, we were clearly told that the airspace reform will happen this year, and we can see the low altitude space they have already opened for somewhere as a pilot areas to test, right? And we believe that will change better and better, but it will need time since the things are changing, not just as we expect. Maybe there will be some other things happen at the same time. So it will need time. But our customers, I think they have their own channel to work on this. And also we have, I know in China there are so many ground handling companies, like a UAS, like a Universal Weather, all those kind of companies. They are helping all this kind of stuff.
So just to check, you're guaranteeing that this year China will have low-level airspace reform?
I don't guarantee, but we were told that. So, and also there are some reforming, going on now. Just the final, I think how they will change and how much they will change for this year, we don't know yet. However, we can see things are changing.
Claudio, your customers pretty happy or frustrated?
No, they are. When we think about how happy they are with the asset and the support that they get, absolutely, they are happy. Of course, they get frustrated because they are not able to use the airplane as much as they would like to. We have customers in Indonesia, for instance, when they have business trips to China, they fly commercial because it's not convenient to use a business jet in and out of China because of slots, because of whatever. So this kind of frustration exists, but it's uncommon. It's very uncommon to see someone dropping business aviation and leaving this market. So people that got in, they some way or another, they get addicted to it, and they stick with business aviation in spite of all the challenges that exist.
Okay, Rocky, we have a question for you, but I think we'll push this out to everyone. It's not really a question, it's more just a series of words in not much order. Are you seeing much effect from the US-Chinese trade war?
Yeah, I think you are making up this question. Well, the U.S.-China, I saw some articles and that we better not use trade war as a war. It's kind of like not so good. I think just like a tariff thing is just one of the ways they are talking with each other. So I want to increase this, then you say I want to increase this. But I believe this will create some influence to the business temporarily, but when I'm not only talking about the Textron. Last year, the U.S. AmCham, they had a big forum about how the tariff will affect all the U.S. companies, and also the issue some white paper on that. So the investment to China is still the same. I'm thinking more than 90% of the companies, U.S. companies, they are confident to the investment to China just because of the tariff thing or the talk between two countries. I think the speed is a little bit slowed down now, so they are still waiting for some final agreement between two countries. But for us, I think for Textron in China, I can frankly to say we have had facilities in China 20 years ago. We get organization there. Last year was our best year for revenue. So although tariff thing is a little bit affecting all the, everybody is nervous with that, but I think we are still confident that the two countries will settle that down. I mean, just two older people there, so.
Nilesh, you know, your customers, presumably nearly all of them have some business interest with either China or America. Are you finding it, you know, are the headlines distracting them yet?
I think if you look at the performance for this year, I think we're selling. It hasn't affected it, but in terms of private discussions with customers, obviously customers are concerned because if China slows down, APAC is very integrated into China. If there's any impact in economic impact in China, will impact economics in this part of the world. So there is some thought, a worry in the back of their head. It's unfair to say it isn't, but I think in terms of the decision to purchase, it hasn't impacted it so far. You know.
Do you think that's because they've just got used to more volatility?
No, I think because underlying economy in Southeast Asia, or Asia Pacific in general, whether it's India or Australia and Indonesia, long term is solid. If you have a solid company, right, you're already used to flying aircraft, you're going to buy, right? I think what we're not going to see is the concept buyer who was just about to buy and whose basic business is linked to China or US might be a little bit more apprehensive. Then again, you look at Vietnam, which is benefiting from the trade war because there's more business happening there. So you see that suddenly there might be interest in that part of the market.
Claudio, you seeing the trade tariffs affecting your customers?
It does affect. I mean, you're talking about China, right?
Not the Mexican one, which is over, or the threatened one on the EU, which is out there, or Brazil. Have you had one yet?
No, not Brazil, but all of our business jets, they are now, I mean, except for the Legacy and the Lineage, but the Praetors and the Phantoms, they are assembled in the U.S. in our facilities in Florida, so they are subject to the tariffs. So that does affect us. It is, of course, a point of uncertainty in the market in general from customers about, okay, what about all this trade war and how this affects my business? But at the same time, it may create opportunities for some customers, some businesses in the region, not specifically in China, right? But in Southeast Asia, some companies, some corporations, they may be benefited by the trade war between U.S. and China. So this, I mean, it's negative in general, but it opens up some opportunities as well.
And I think actually someone in the audience has gone, sorry, I touched the, saying that they could see uplifting in Southeast Asia, you know, the point you were talking about. Another question from the audience. Embraer and Cessna used to assemble private jets in China. Do they still do this?
We don't. We started with our production line in China actually for regional jets, the RJ-145, at a time that the Chinese government wanted to develop regional aviation there and attract foreign OEMs. And through a number of benefits, it would make sense to assemble the airplanes there. When the government removed those benefits, right, we started assembling business jets, the Legacy 650, but the benefits were also removed. So at one stage we were producing airplanes there, and it was more expensive to produce it in China and more expensive to sell it to customers in China than importing an airplane built in Brazil. So it didn't make any economic sense to keep the production line there.
Well, from Textron side, we are still doing so. We have 2 joint ventures in China for aircraft assembly. One is in Shijiazhuang. We assemble Cessna Caravan there, 208. And also we have another one in Zhuhai for the 560 for citation. But now currently we, for the Caravan one, we got PC extension from FAA, and we started, I think we have started this work there for several years, and for the 560 in Zhuhai now we do a lot of painting and deliveries, like a delivery center there currently, but still going on.
Okay, Nilesh, 8,000 plus nautical miles seems enough range. So what will buyers be looking for next? 8,000 nautical miles seems enough range. So what will buyers be looking for next? Bigger cabins, supersonic aircraft, or?
I think the key element
or is the G7500 just perfect?
Well, G7500 is perfect, but I think it reinvents a certain class of aviation that didn't exist before in terms of cabin and connectivity, giving you a true home in the skies, something that we talked about in your design conference yesterday. I think the next step, I mean, customers are always pushing the boundaries when it comes to cabin size and range. There will always be a push to that. And it's also where I see the supersonic challenge is that because of the demand of a true, at that level, customer or cabin size, speed, you know, to give that kind of cabin and that supersonic speed is going to be a challenge. But I think, yes, there will be continuous demand for more range. I think cabin on the 7500 hits the target. I think there will be, obviously, there's a couple of city pairs that customers would like to have, and I think we'll see that in the future.
Claudio, what do you think is the big battleground for customers now?
You mean on this segment?
Yeah, or generally in your segment. I'm seeing there seems to be a lot more focus on the, you know, on the smaller aircraft, on the light jets up, on connectivity, and also cabin noise seems to be the big issue now.
Well, it's a lot of aspects. Of course, I mean, there are the basic ones, right? Range and speed. Everyone will be looking at that. But nowadays, customers, they look more at, for sure, at connectivity. That's a key area for them. On our Praetors, we are now offering K-band connectivity, which is something that does not exist in the mid-size segment. But it's basically, I would say the connectivity, the comfort levels, noise, Those are key aspects. But as it was mentioned here in an earlier panel today, price, of course, is something that customers are always chasing. And our challenge is to sell value to them, show them, okay, what they are paying for, what are all the benefits that they are getting when they buy an airplane from us.
Rocky, what, in your customers, is it price? Is that the big differentiator, or are they also looking for new things?
I think if you see the Jeff's report just now, it's kind of like currently in the China market is still large and long range as the big amount of that. But we believe that now the customers are beginning to think about the cost, the need, how long range they need, how big the aircraft that they will need. I think they are thinking more about the cost and also the to meet their needs. I think this becoming to get back to their real purpose for building a jet, not like in old days they want to the bigger the better, or the longer range the better. Now I think most of the customers it's better for the private owners. They begin to think about that.
Okay, Claudio, are you seeing Vietnam, or are you seeing buyers from Vietnam?
It's a market that we see some activity. A few years ago, I believe the first Vietnam registered business jet, or maybe one of the very first ones, is a Legacy 600 that came to the country a few years ago. Just recently, we had the Legacy 650 being included in the Vietnam registry. And it's a market that we are seeing increased interest. It's a very small market, literally didn't exist 5 years ago, but it's evolving, and we will see the fleet growing steadily over the coming years there, for sure.
10 aircraft. Nilesh?
Yeah, it's Claudio's right. 5-6 years back didn't exist. Now there's a lot of interest, and I think Vietnam is benefiting a bit from the trade conflict, so that's also helping. It's a small market, but I think it's also going to be a large cabin aircraft market.
One of the trends we've talked a lot in this conference is OEMs getting involved in services and the aftermarket. As new aircraft sales guys, how involved do you get with your colleagues in aftermarket?
Well, we are extremely involved. Obviously, they have a completely separate organization, but because of the relationship we have with customers, if there's any escalation of issues or items, we are involved. I think, as you see, business aviation has evolved. 25 years back, most of the OEMs own service centers in the US because that's what it was concentrated. As the market has changed and evolved into Europe and Asia over the past, we've seen OEMs invest. We were one of the first ones, as you know, to go through factory-owned service centers here in Singapore, Tianjin, Biggin Hill. I think that trend is going to continue because I think customer experience is paramount in our industry. So controlling that experience and making sure, at least the major service centers, that we can control their customer experience is going to be critical in the future.
So if you're mainly getting involved when an owner calls you, how would your colleagues describe you? Do they like you in the service business?
Of course. I mean, no, we are one team. Like, for example, my office is in the service center here, right? So that shows, and then pretty much, I think, same thing with Textron and other manufacturers. So I think we are very well integrated that way, and we talk every day, multiple times a day.
Claudio, you're a bit further behind. Embraer hasn't built as big a network of service centers.
It's just a matter of the installed fleet, right? Our competitors, they have been in the market for over 40, 50 years. Embraer is the new kid in business aviation. Our first airplane was the Legacy 600. We started delivering Phenoms back in 2008, 2009. So it's just about 10 years, 15 years of airplanes being delivered. So worldwide, we have a fleet of 1,200, 1,300 airplanes. In Asia Pacific, it's 75. So growing our own service network here in the region, of course, it depends on our installed fleet, right? Our competitors, they have had a 30 years advantage when compared to us. But it doesn't mean that we don't have a strong presence in the region, right? We partner with a lot of important companies here, Jet Aviation, ExecuJet. So these companies, we work side by side as real partners, and they provide great support to our customers.
Rocky, do you work closely with aftermarket?
Yeah, I think service is always connected with sales, and I mean it's part of sales, and especially when you sell to the aircraft to somebody, not if that's a large operator, normally they can do that own maintenance, but if the private owner or if they're a small charter company, they will first thing they will check who can maintain their airplane for them, right? So, especially like in Asia or in China, and we have a Singapore service center here, and also we have the China, as I mentioned, the joint venture in Shenzhen. They are a service center for several our airplane models, and also in China and other regions we have authorized a service center from Textron Aviation. So I think we have very good service network to support all the operations. You don't need to fly the airplane back to Wichita for some maintenance.
Which is good with a Mustang or something. Will OEMs start differentiate? Question from the audience: will OEMs start differentiating themselves from the environmental factor? Do you guys see the environment as a big sell yet?
I think it's coming, and you saw that in Qatar's presentation yesterday. I think cabin environment desirability is key themes in terms of the design of the products in the future.
Sustainability?
We've tried to integrate that into our supply chain and into our production line, and it's a continuous effort. And being a Canadian company, and it's a big drive for us. And it's part of our culture. So yes.
Absolutely, and it's not new. I mean, it's for the past 10, 20 years we have been investing a lot on doing environmental friendly production processes, aircraft painting, usage of materials that are not pollutant, that are recyclable at the end of the life cycle of the airplane. So it's been there, and it's a trend, and it will obviously continue growing.
Okay. I feel the quality of the questions has deteriorated since the alcohol came in the room. How many no's have you given to prospects in Asia due to compliance? I'm guessing your compliance department wouldn't want you to answer that question. Philosophical point. Can one of the OEMs adopt the sales slogan, "We're all time travelers moving at the speed of exactly 60 minutes per hour"? Does anyone want that one? No? Okay. There's other people to pitch that to. Any questions?
It's Paul.
Was it Paul? It's all Paul Chebley. Are there any questions from the room? Yes, Mike Walsh. I'll bring the microphone to you. I'm en route.
My question, I guess, is why does some OEMs have dedicated government affair representatives and why others don't, especially in Asia where government is so important in terms of getting anything to move? Of course, you can't speak for if you are not one of those, but I think Bombardier does, Textron does. Does Embraer have one?
We do have a structure that we call our country president structure, and they have the role of governmental affairs. So we do have our country president based here in Singapore and another country president in China, in Beijing, that has that road.
Anyone else want to comment on governmental affairs? Are you happy to leave it to your colleagues? Are any of the OEMs on stage landing supersonic soon? Would you like to make the announcement today? Okay. Your rush to answer that one is answer in itself. Let's end the conference on a cheery, optimistic note. What are you guys most optimistic about? Wow.
No, I'm optimistic about the 7500 coming into the region. I think it's going to be a game changer in this region. Asia has been predominantly a large, ultra-long-range, large cabin market. And as we grow up that market, Asia is going to play a bigger role in the overall global share. And I think 7500 with our customers doing routes like Singapore, San Francisco, Melbourne, LA, in Delhi, New York, I think that's going to be a great, I'm very optimistic. I'm excited about it's coming into the region. There's a lot of them delivering over the next 2 years here. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
I'm not sure that counts as an answer, Nilesh. You're optimistic about an aircraft that's already coming. Come on.
Okay, specific about countries, I think Vietnam, Philippines, Japan. I think Indonesia has been relatively quiet over the last couple of years. I think after the elections, I see a potential of the rebound. India is extremely exciting now for us, you know. It's for the first time the install base is growing, concept buyers are coming in, and I think Asia is the growth story. I don't know if David's in the room, but yeah, I would love to see Asia take 20% of the global market, and it's there. The wealth is there. And compared to the US, we haven't even cracked the surface. I think regulatory and infrastructure environment remains a challenge, but I think there's a growing trend of understanding business aviation and using business aviation as a tool. And I think I also see Australia as a big opportunity of growth.
Well, I'll do my sales pitch here as well. No, I'm extremely optimistic on the Pareto 600. We heard a lot of people here talking about customers being more rational on their buying decisions. It's a two-cabin zone airplanes that can do 4,000 nautical miles, fly around all the entire region here, Ka band, very low noise levels.
So not only are you optimistic, but you're saying it's the only rational choice.
Absolutely. Other than the Phantom 300. Market-wise, it's more Southeast Asia. China, we are still very cautious about China. I believe China will still degrade before getting better. But Southeast Asia, we are quite optimistic about it. And India, I agree with your comments, Nilesh. I just wish it would be easier on a regulatory standpoint to import airplanes there and operate airplanes there. But Southeast Asia is basically where I'm more optimistic with.
Rocky, longitude or the...
I don't want to do any sales here, but anyway, this is the... since I have been working in the China aviation industry for so many years, so I think, look back 30 years or 20 years ago, the commercial airlines there in aviation industry in China, there was nothing, I mean, not nothing, but a very, very small market there. So how was the Boeing and the Airbus, and they're doing their, like, to get the industry development. Here, I think for the business aviation, things change. Once it changes very fast. Now they just, I mean, some of the customers or the public, they really do not understand the real what business aviation is. Only a few of the customers or in their circles, they understand, they know the need, they know what they do. But still, I think we are still cultivate that market there. But I believe it will be better and better. And from the national government, I saw some question about government, but from the national government and the local government and more and more government officials now, they noticed that how they need to encourage the business aviation development in China. So I don't know if you noticed that 2 months ago when even the regulatory released some punishment notification to some airports because they charge too much for business aviation. So this is a kind of big step. I saw somebody want to the associations or the industry to lobby the government. That's true. That's how the industry has been doing there. Like even the airport fee things. I believe that when the MBA and the ASPR, the leadership who visited the CAC, we submitted not a white paper, but a kind of report about what kind of challenges the business aviation has in China. So one of the items is about some airports, they charge too much for business aviation jets, right? So then about half a year later now, we see the results. They are beginning to develop the standards and also begin to check around which airport is doing something weird. So that will be. I believe everything will be better, and I'm very confident that the market will be very strong.
That's a nice upbeat. Everything will be better. The market will be strong. Final question, but one probably. There's probably one more out there. Is your job getting easier or harder every year?
Wow. Maybe you can answer, did I get my increase every year?
Actually, I think we could just show the photos from the panel that no one on this panel looks like their photo. Easier or harder? Can we put the slides back up? It's 3 different people on the stage. Nilesh, is life getting easier or harder?
No, I think the market, no matter what, means even though the numbers are there, every deal is fought for, right, among all of us and pre-owned. So every deal is fought for, and every deal has complexity, you know. Sometimes we're doing 3 trades at a time, you know. So I think, yes, it's going to be challenging. I don't think we are in the 2007-8 days where people come in and just sign the checks and take planes. But I think it's good for the industry. I think we've evolved as an industry, and we started to look at complex problems and structured the solutions accordingly. So I think, yeah, it's good, but yes, it's not easier, that's for sure.
Is life getting easier?
Harder.
Harder.
I think about the same. I did not feel too much pressure or too much relaxable. About the same, since we have more and more new products coming out, and so we work with the industry very closely. I think we are gaining more and more trust from the customers, and also we are doing more and more things for the industry and also for the company. So I think about the balance.
Okay, final question. In one word, can you describe the next 12 months?
Fairly optimistic.
That's 2 words. Okay, you can have 2 words each now.
Small growth.
Yeah, I expect if the U.S. and China settle down, I think the second half of the year will be okay, and then I think maybe the coming 6 months will be good.
So that was okay, comma, good, small growth, and I've forgotten.
Fairly optimistic.
Fairly optimistic. On that exciting fence sitting, if you're taking away, one message, it's and on that cheery bombshell, thank you very much to the panelists.
Thank you.